On this episode, we discuss The Unholy.
Prequel to the movie Holy.
With me, Gillian Flynn. I'm back. I'm back. You couldn't get rid of me like an evil, dark, unholy penny. I arise and return for Shocktoberfest.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Flophouse. I'm Dan McCoy.
I'm Stuart Wellington.
I'm Elliot Kalin.
And with us tonight, you have probably heard her in the intro, Gillian Flynn is here. You know her from writing books such as Dark Places, Sharp Objects, not Shark Objects, so that would be a
Shark
great
Objects is a
book as
great
well.
title for a book, though. Yeah.
Gone Girl, the film Widows, Utopia,
And for previous episode of the Flophouse, yeah.
For some reason, being
Most
willing
importantly.
to come back and talk to us on the Flophouse. That's how you know her. Hello.
Mostly how you know me, I think. I hope primarily how you know me is that gal from Flophouse that shows up every once in a while.
Which movie was that? What was the episode?
That was
one-
Uninvited.
It's Uninvited. That's why I picked Unholy this
Oh,
time.
that makes sense.
That's the second part of the Gillian Flynn trilogy.
Next year 3 will be a trend as I pick.
It'll be a movie called Uncola, and it's about a sprite that turns people to zombies.
Oh, wow.
Why do you think there's so many horror movies? They're just like, oh, let's just take a good thing, I guess. And I guess if we have the opposite of that, it's a bad thing and thus scary.
Yeah.
That's the formula.
Innocent. Yeah, you can't do everything. You can't. That doesn't
The
work with
unalive.
everything.
The ungood. Oh, this sounds bad.
Next year, I will not return. It'll be called the Unback. Gillian.
No.
Oh no, so sad. Never.
Oh, terrible, terrible.
So what do we do in this podcast,
This
Dan?
is a podcast where we watch a bad movie and then we talk about it. And in this case,
We did.
It's October, or as we brand it here on the Flophouse, Shocktober. I think we're the
TM.
only people to ever say that. And we talk about horror movies in Shocktober. And this time, there are a few options we offered to Gillian, and she went with The Unholy.
Un.
And to clarify, this isn't. If you go on IMDb, there's I believe that it's a metric fuck ton of movies called The Unholy. So
That's true.
This is 2021.
This is the new one.
This is
I
the
hope
one
we
with,
all watched the right one.
I don't know.
Watch the right one in.
This is the one with the criminally underused Carrie Elwes. I never know how to
Yep.
say his
Carrie
name.
Elwes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Carrie Elwes.
He-
Carrie Elwes, who
he-
last appeared on the Flophouse in the character of Bobby Wobbly in the Oogie Loves movie, right?
I mean, I'm sure we were gonna get around to it at some point, but I want to ask you guys: is Carrie Elwes good at acting or bad at acting? Because I love him in The Princess Bride.
Wow.
I think he's a lot of fun on Stranger Things recently as like the sort of callow mayor character, and then I see him in a lot of things, including this one that confused me.
I would suggest filtering it through a Gen Xer who was maybe 13 at the time that Princess Bride
Right.
came out. And I can say greatest actor in the world, no matter
Yeah.
what.
Okay. Even with a shaky
But
Boston accent.
also needs some better roles. Maybe.
Well, that's the thing is
Yeah.
Carrie
That's the
Elwes
problem.
is one of those performers who was born for in the wrong time. Like to me, his best roles to me are The Princess Bride and Robin Hood Men in Tights, and it's
Yes.
like, yeah, he should be doing Errol Flynn type
He
roles.
should be doing Errol Flynn movies. I completely
and they
agree.
they don't make those movies anymore, which is terrible because he should be like, if he's the guy who like they should have made Pirates of the Caribbean when he was younger, and he should have done like the Orlando
He
Bloom
would have been-
character.
It would have been
Yeah.
great.
It would have been great.
I completely
the
agree.
moments in this movie where he is best is when he gets to be a little bit bigger and he gets to be like, what accent shall I be doing right now? Who knows?
Let me open up the voice box and see what I pull out.
We will get in. We will get into that at some point. But I wanted to say real quick that I showed my son both the Errol Flynn Robin Hood, and then he decided that his favorite actor was, quote, Claude Rains. So we are a popular family at the school with, I picture him wandering onto the playground going like, hey, anyone want to talk Invisible Man with me? 1938 edition.
Great choice, but yes, it'll place him as a child out of time.
I feel like he's got to hang out with my kids because my kids are always like, do your Peter Lorre voice, Daddy.
Yes.
Do Peter Lorre.
Where's Vincent Price? That's what he recognized from, Thriller the other day and the costume store. It's Vincent Price, my other favorite actor. You guys can cut all this, but...
No, it's good.
This is meat. This is gold meat. This is meat that's been painted gold.
Gold meat.
Now, I had a question. It's cold meat. It's gold. I had a question. It's the golden calf from the Bible. They butchered it, and it's gold meat.
The cold meat.
So this movie is based on a novel called Shrine by an author named James Herbert. I've never read any of his books. Have you guys read? I've read, of course, Frank Herbert's books, including Tom Brokaw's favorite, Dune, soon to be a major motion picture. But are you guys familiar with this book or any of the books that guy wrote? I'm not.
No, I did know. Gillian, I was going to say something, but it's not that interesting. Gillian, have you read it?
I have not. During my extensive research on this show, I meant to look it up and dabble, at least dabble a little bit. But I never made it to that.
I looked it up on Cliff Notes. I couldn't find a Cliff Notes, so I was like,
"Fuck it." Cliff Notes.
Yeah. What about a Spark Notes? Did they have any Spark Notes of it?
I didn't look.
Okay.
I don't put that much work into this podcast.
Notes, which is
the notes that Sparks made about it, which sounds amazing. I love it, but you can't really understand what they're saying.
Yeah, I watching this movie, I'm like, okay, I could see how this premise would be a pretty good horror book premise. Yeah. And I think it is executed in a very soporific way, but we'll get into it.
Something we'll get into that
premise being like there's a long premise. It's like which mask, which burn, which dunk, which tree, soul tree, doll married tree, doll two tree. That's like the first 10 minutes. So I would fall of journalism, clickbait.
Yeah,
it's
a movie that bites. It goes to chew a lot, and yet somehow is consistently feels very empty. And I think like there's a lot of scenes where you're like, okay, like they got across something. But what I didn't realize until after I'd watched it was that this was shot during the COVID lockdown. They had to stop and they restarted. And according to Wikipedia, it says there could be no more than 10 background actors on set together at once. And that's why it feels like they're in Halloween Town from Nightmare Before Christmas, where there's like 20 residents of this town, and you just see the same ones all the time. So let's get in. Oh, I feel like once I learned that, I was like, okay, I feel like
you cracked the code, yeah.
This movie is now I'm grading it on a curve,
Much more forgiving, yeah.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So let's talk about what happens in this movie. Okay, we open. It's 1845. That's right, everybody. It's that antebellum period that so many people in the country seem to want to go back to, and I don't know why. And we're in a woman's POV. We're looking through her eyes as something's nailed to something wet and squishy, and then she's burned alive, and her soul seems to be trapped in a doll. And yes, it is.
This priest holds up a really cool looking doll,
and now
you're like,
the doll's rad.
Yeah. And here's the thing about this: 1845 is pretty late for them to be burning a witch.
Not famous for witch burnings back then, right?
No, by that point they were. Ironically, by that point they were well onto hating Catholics, which are otherwise the characters in the movie. We were talking about early Americans, but okay.
Also, I mean, just along with the anachronism, I just like this is another one of those horror movies that's like, no, actually, they were right to burn those witches because they were evil.
Like the scary thing about the witch trials was that there were no witches and they were hanging and burning innocent, mostly hanging in the United States, innocent women. But you always have, it's the same way that like people who consider themselves witches like go to Salem and they walk around in their dark clothes and it's like, no, guys, you're in the wrong place. Like, there were no actual witches.
Bewitched statue in Salem that I can't believe exists.
Well, there's a lot of reasons why that's wrong.
TV Land.
It takes us back to that terrible time when men were actually threatened by women's sexuality. Isn't that weird?
Thank God we've passed that.
As opposed to now, you're right. We're enlightened. Anyway, so we cut to Boston, modern day. We meet Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Jerry Fenn. He's a down on his luck reporter who he used to be a big shot, But as we learn later, he seems to have made up some stories, classic shattered glass style, and has fallen into scandal. And now he's taken $150 to drive out to some small town called Banfield and investigate a reported cattle mutilation for some kind of website that reports on cattle mutilations.
I gotta pump the brakes. Now you brought up Shattered Glass. How much better would this movie be if it was Hayden Christensen?
I mean, marginally. I don't know actually.
How much better?
Well, the thing is, Jeffrey Dean Morgan is so calm and so controlled throughout the movie that I never really feel like he's that he has a problem. Whereas Hayden Christensen always seems like he's about to just like snap at any moment.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, man,
now, Gillian, you seem to have some feelings about this man's journalism career. I do as well. But what did you want to say?
Multiple things. I was going to say multiple things, but
start with one and then do the rest of them.
Exactly. I think as someone who had been a journalist for 10 years, I was stopped cold in my tracks that there are actually multiple clickbait outfits about supernatural cow possessions these days. I mean, I'm not in the clickbait era anymore, and then later on he actually gets scooped by the rival cow supernatural. And he's like, I'm down $150. And in the meantime, I was kind of doing my math, and it was sort of like, okay, got to get drunk, so I could buy all my liquor. I smash a doll. I almost run over someone. I end up in a motel. It was like by the end, he owes the site money, I think. It's sort of like, he can give you $500 for doing this story.
You know that he's doing the math in his head the whole drive there, whether he's actually making a profit on the gas that he had to pay to get out to Banfield. Like it's a low. They should have shown him like in a bus, being like, all right, gotta maximize.
They could have hired a Photoshop guy for much less and not have to pay for the gas money to get out there and take these photos.
It's certainly not worth his time. At the same time, I'm amazed that any web outlet is paying $150 for a cattle mutilation story.
Well, yeah,
mutilation.
We're living in this beautiful time in the 21st century where people are overpaying for crap, but still not paying enough for regular people to live off of. So nobody's happy.
I do want to say that Jeffrey Dean Morgan does not look like the kind of guy who is ever going to FaceTime somebody. But every time he talks to his editor, he's always on FaceTime. I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
It does seem, too, that when I watch it, I'm like, this seems like his whole journalism career now. Like he has totally pivoted into supernatural journalist, which is like, well, I don't know.
He's gone from the dizzying heights of, I think, somewhere in New York, possibly, where the fancy people live, I'm told. And he discusses later on, he'll discuss, why he made up the stories and says, my God, like the lights, the fame, people screaming your name. And I was like, I don't think that has ever been the case. That having, again, been a working journalist, I did not experience paparazzi following me as I got my tuna salad sandwich.
How ironic the watchers would be watching the watchers at that point. Yeah. Well, it's like maybe this takes place in that alternate universe where Studio 60 took place, where the head writers of comedy shows hold press conferences when they're hired, or in the same universe as in Roadhouse, where there are famous bouncers, and when they roll into town, people are like, he's here? What? This is amazing.
I've been watching the morning show, and I feel like there's times where the morning show is like the most important thing in the universe is the morning show. And I'm like, I don't know if people would care that much. A different show would come on. It's okay.
Yes,
you can find your news from a computer.
I wish. Now, I haven't seen the morning show, but I assume it's told from the point of view of the Kathy Lee type person who handles the last hour of the show and is drunk most of the time, and she's watching all the events that are happening.
It's actually all just after. It's told by somebody 400 years in the future.
Oh wow!
They have found a DVD of the morning show TV show, and they're just
religion.
And it's just them to camera explaining what they saw. But they don't know the words.
Witherspoon comes on, or someone who looks very similar.
So they're casting actresses in their memory. And that's when those actresses are on.
Exactly.
I thought I explained it pretty clearly.
It's Crystal.
So Jeffrey Dean Morgan, he's got to cover the story. The reporter who is famous for making things up decided he's got to get the details of the cattle mutilation story right. He can't make that up. And so he goes out. It turns out a teen just just shaved an M into a cow's butt hair. And he says to the farmer, "You ever heard of the band Metallica?" But it doesn't really look like the Metallica M. It looks like some approximation.
All right,
it,
well, Elliot, you go out and try and shave a Metallica M.
That's
into
actually
a
a
cow.
good point, Elliot.
That's a good point. It's very difficult. It's
But
when I don't know, I saw Aerosmith tattooed on a cow's udder once, and it looked really good.
true.
So that's not that difficult.
Thing that happened.
But while he's there, his attention, of course, as it would be, is drawn to a single tree.
I love this.
That has one raven in it. Even this is like feels super budget, where it's like we got the money for one raven and one tree. That's the spooky
It's like
forest.
the tree is the one element in the background, and then underneath it is like a blinking thing to indicate there's an item for you to pick up in a video game. It's crazy.
It's the Looney Tunes version of the hole in the opening of the tree. And yes.
Oh, sorry. What are you saying?
Oh, I would just like to mark. I think it's important that we note that at minute 3 is the first use of the word wicked, so that we know we're in Massachusetts. And I was just curious. I am not from the New England area, so do people still use the word wicked? Because I was just there last weekend, and all I could see for miles around were T-shirts that either said "masshole" or dim apples or whatever, and then wicked, and I was like, is that a thing, or is that like, I'm from Kansas City, whenever you go home it's sort of like it has the Alice or the Wizard of Oz jokes, but we don't like walk around to each other and like Oz, usually. So I was curious.
I think, they say it less ever since this was a big disaster about 10 years ago when the musical Wicked opened in Boston, and opening night numbers were enormous. So many pre-sale tickets, and then they found out it was not about lit life in Boston, but instead the story, the Wicked Witch of the West story. And and I remember the headline in the Boston Globe the next day: "Defying gravity? ? Wicked fails to impress Beantown audiences." And ever since they've decided not to use the word, it's just stained for them,
Yeah, because they saw the green used in the poster, and they're like, "That's the color of the Celtics jerseys. It's got to be about Boston, right?"
Yep, exactly. That's what they said.
Thousands of little girls, like, so excited to see the story of the Boston Celtics put to music. Thrilled and thrilled.
Not since the film Bird opened in Boston, everyone thought it was about Larry Bird, and they all went to go see it.
Yeah.
Such disappointment. Or the band Boston, and everybody in Boston was like, "We get to play? Wonderful!" And they crowded the stage. It was a stampede.
It was horrible.
It
Some people trampled.
Yeah, it sent Ben Affleck into one of his spirals again,
Yeah.
I feel so bad for Ben Affleck seeing him in one of those like online sports betting commercials, and I'm like, oh shit, he's on a downswing again.
I mean, there's no one I feel worse for than Regina King, because she keeps getting locked out of her house, and it's just lucky she has that credit card so she can pass the time. How many times is she going to forget her keys and get locked out of her house? It's like, come on, Regina King.
I thought that was a car commercial. I've got the volume down, but she looks great. She's selling.
So Jeffrey Dean Morgan, he hears some sinister whispers. That's what brings him to the tree. Great title for something, Sinister Whispers. And he sees something glinting inside. It's a doll. It's the doll we saw in the opening. And he decides he's going to make a story by pretending that the farmer found the doll and that the doll was broken, and somehow that's connected to the cattle mutilations. And the farmer's like, "That doll's not broken," so he breaks it. And so it's like, it's such a dumb decision for him to make that he has to do that.
It's like, my readers know a Kern doll must be broken in order to release the spirit within, have it go inside a tree, and pretend to be the Virgin Mary. We are stomping this doll.
We got to break it. That night, he's driving at night. He's cursing himself for wrecking his career. He sees a woman in the road and swerves and crashes in the woods. We never find out what he does.
His first good decision of the day. He didn't run the woman over.
That's true.
Because he was drinking, yeah.
And his car seems to be fine. We never see him bringing it to the garage, or he just abandons it. I don't know. This woman, she's in a white gown. He finds her kneeling at the tree, mumbling to herself, and then she passes out. And he carries her to the closest house, which is that of the local priest, played by William Sadler. That's right, the Grim Reaper himself, reunited with Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I don't think they've ever worked together before, but I'm still calling it a reunion,
Oh, man. William Sadler is one of those character actors that anytime he shows up, I'm like, at least I'm going to get something out of this.
Well, that was, I mean, I have nostalgia for the early parts of watching this movie when I thought, oh, there's potential here. Look, William Sadler just showed up. Yeah. And then it all dripped away over time.
There's no sad and Sadler.
Or
is there? Damn it.
I want to see a movie
Should have been named William Gladler. I think we can all agree.
The Unsadler.
Dumb and Dumber was a big hit. We have William Sadler under contract. We'll do Sad and Sadler. It's about two guys who are super sad.
It's basically Withnail and I, right?
Yeah, I get. Look, Dumb and Dumber was a huge hit. We've got the rights to do an American remake of Withnail and I for some reason. I don't know why we bought those. Let's just use them. Come on. So he takes the local priest, William Sadler, Father Hagen, and he goes, "Oh, this is my niece Alice. And he says, "Oh, I heard her talking at the tree." And the priest, and there's a doctor who shows up, Dr. Gates, played by Katie Aselton, and she says, "You couldn't have heard her talk. She's unable to hear or talk ever since birth. Bum, bum, bum. But we heard it, right? Right, guys? She was mumbling to herself something." The next day, Alice, she kneels and she prays and she hears a high-pitched noise and she can hear. She can hear. This is amazing. She's done it. It's a miracle. And Jeremy D. Morgan, he calls up, he FaceTimes with his editor at the Creepy Gazette online. and he's like...
And he says, forget cows. Cows are out. I got the new thing for you,
He gets in
boss.
touch with his editor at Spooky Chive, and he says, this is the new story. It's a miracle. And he's like, $150. You do it. That's our standard rate, no matter what the story is. And you got to know, then he's FaceTiming with Woodward after that. And Woodward's like, I have proof that Donald Trump is a zombie. $150. That's all we pay.
Yeah.
Fenn, the reporter, he goes to church. The doctor is there. And Alice, she starts hearing a woman whispering her name, and she follows it to that tree outside. She just gets up and walks out while her uncle, who raised her, is doing the sermon. Very, very disrespectful. Everyone follows her because they're like, a girl getting up and walking out of church. This I gotta see.
That's the part of the movie where I was like, well, I was talking to myself, Dan, you aren't paying that much attention to this movie. It's perfectly possible you missed something, but it's good to know that, yes, I'm not wrong. It's strange that everyone left at that point.
I kind of felt like the girls, because first it was the line of girls followed her, so I thought they were doing some sort of Salem witchy, Arthur Millery sort of thing, but I might have been thinking too hard. But they were all I know is that... there's always something about if you are a young girl who's afflicted with anything in a movie that you have to wear some sort of cashmere sensible twin set. That's very and even more so if you become possessed. It's like you just do not. It's like no. Back to the cardigans.
Yeah, that was.
And in which country you can find those anywhere? Like you go to any store, any truck stop, they have those available just because they're so in demand.
Yeah,
sensible New England of sick and or possessed girls.
I remember when I was very clearly a point when I was a young man in my 20s, and I said to my friend Ariel, I said, "Ariel, your skirt matches your your cardigan," and she goes, "Yes, Dan. It's called a twin set." I'm like, great.
Oh.
I mean, these things that I would not know, but
Dan's coming of age story. I feel like we're getting into here.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, that's the kind of prequel explanation that we need more of in today's media.
Yeah. Well, now you understand my fascination with twin sets now.
Yeah, it explains a lot, actually.
Yeah, Dan's always had a fantasy about twin sets. Anyway, Alice, she sees a vision of a woman made out of light, and she's like, "Oh, the lady has an urgent message for all of us." And everyone's
come back tomorrow.
Our urgent message is come back tomorrow to see more, which is
fucking teaser culture.
Less urgent. That's not urgent. Is she washing her hair? Or
she's like,
the tree is not. The tree's a mess.
The tree's not ready.
Come tomorrow.
She's got an urgent message that the trailer drops tomorrow. So this is and everyone goes, they're like, I can't wait to find it. She hasn't talked before. I can't wait to find out what this message is from the lady. And let me just tell you, here's a spoiler alert. There's a witch named Mary in this. That witch is so lucky her name was Mary because it means
amazing.
Alice can keep saying, Mary told me this. And everyone goes, gotta be the Virgin Mary. Only one Mary who talks to girls.
It's like the case of the mixed up name. It's so funny.
If that witch had been named like Betty, it would not have worked. She'd be like, Betty told me we all have to worship her. And people would be like, no, thank you. Betty White, maybe. She's a national treasure, but still.
That old busybody? No.
So the reporter... he's like, this is a bigger story than I ever thought. This girl, she can talk, she can hear. This is amazing news. Splattered on the front page. Girl talks and hears now. She's seeing visions of the Virgin Mary. And he calls up his old boss at a big paper and pitches the story. And she says, don't call me again. You're a liar. Which is a totally I don't know why she took his call, to be honest. Yep. And that night, he dreams of a creepy kind of crawling hooded figure emerging from a creek. That's right, a creepy crawly creek creature. And he turns out his ceiling is leaking water on him. And here's this. So we're gonna.
It's just a weird dream. It just happens when water's leaking in your face.
And so, but here's so there's a couple times here where the movie seems like it's fainting in the direction of maybe there isn't something going on here. But it doesn't last that way for long. But here's that we're being introduced to two different villain sides of the same character. One can talk and present herself as the Virgin Mary and think, and the other one is just a kind of gremlin-y creature that crawls around and has claws and goes. And I couldn't. It was hard for me to believe these were the same creature, and I was wondering maybe they were just working together. Guys, what do you think?
So I had this same question too, because I also sometimes does the whole I'm moving like a cricket backwards thing.
Yeah.
That
it's
kind of like
popular.
the Ring version of that. And sometimes then I feel like it looks like Gollum / Schmeagol, and I think we're gonna have some interesting origin story. So I'm all for creature evolution. I saw Alien back in the day. I get it.
I'm cool.
Fellow kids, let's talk about Alien. Come on.
And or Vincent Price.
Claude
I'm up for either. Pals of mine. But I kept waiting for the linking thread about what all this was. And the last thing you want and this creature pops up a lot, and the last thing you want for your audience to be is like, ugh, that guy. Like, it's back. And then I thought actually, for a while, it wasn't really doing anything. So it'd kind of show up, and I felt like it was kind of like, maybe it just couldn't talk, much like our protagonist. And so it was sort of like actually a friendly creature who was sort of like, like, knock, knock, who's there? Damn apples! Or something.
Massachusetts,
Trying to ask about antiquing or something. It's like, we don't know. But then...
Well, it's one of those movies where
donuts.
The monster pops up to scare people and then is like, see you again tomorrow, and then leaves the room. And I'm always, I couldn't figure out why is this monster just not doing very much?
Well,
why is this monster acting like the VeggieTales and being pirates who don't do very much?
It pops up with a string set and then goes away again, which I thought was thoughtful.
Now, Dan, you're a monsterologist. What do you think?
Well, the only way I can make this work is, spoiler alert, the end of the movie, places this in a world where God does intervene on behalf
reluctantly.
After a long time. He took a sweet time. But so if there is a God, maybe these are just...
You like a miracle? Check back tomorrow.
Maybe these dreams...
God has a sign next to the gates of heaven that says, I only gave myself enough time on earth to handle one person's problem at a time. Today is not your day. Tomorrow's not looking too good either.
He comes back from vacation. What the hell? No, I can only understand this maybe as like premonitions because of the true nature of this monster.
Okay.
Because if it's just the monster, it seems like a really bad strategy on the monster's part because the whole plot is like pretending to be good, pretending to be miracles. And it seems to be really working against yourself if you're also simultaneously appearing in people's dreams being like, bleh.
It does seem like a terrible strategy. Right? Like, shouldn't you be like, everything's cool, play it cool?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't reveal yourself too early.
It's the con man who's like, well,
Don't
hello,
overthink it.
I've got an excellent business opportunity. Give me your money. Here's a gun. I think you should invest in this one. Give me your money now. I'm going to kill you.
It's in the swamp. Here's a hint. Give me your money.
So the next day, everyone's gathered outside the church. It's a very small town. There's not a lot going on. If a girl doesn't talk very much tells you to come back at a tree, you're going to go do that. And the priest, Father Hagen, is like, get out of here. Alice wants to be left alone. Alice doesn't feel that way, though, because Alice shows up and heals a kid in a wheelchair so he can walk. And everyone's like, it's a miracle. And inside the church, meanwhile, the Virgin Mary is crying blood. A statue of the Virgin Mary.
As soon as I saw that statue at the beginning, like early on in the movie, I'm like, That thing is going to be crying like a mother.
Yeah, I mean, she's
be
crying like a
crying
mother
like-
because her only son was murdered. You know.
It's gonna look like
What?
a Kathy comic. With
Who did that? Why did they murder her son?
Well, he was going around saying he was the king of kings and stuff.
That's some wild
so
ideas. Okay.
He was going around telling people this. I was thinking about this the other day that it's a bad sign for humanity that every couple centuries or so religions have to pop up and be like, you should be nice to each other. And then we forget about it for like 500 years, and then it has to happen again. It's just a bad sign for the way we do things. Okay, guys, we're about to get to my favorite character in the whole movie. That's right, Bishop Carey Elways, the bishop of this part of Massachusetts, and he's giving a slideshow on faith healing shrines and how all these shrines mean Bafo B.O. for the CC. That's the Catholic
Yeah.
Church. And when they confirm a miracle has occurred, they got to snap up that land and make it a shrine.
And the local bid, like the local business improvement district, is going to make a little bit of cash because people come through and they got to buy those apple cider donuts, those twin sets, all that shit.
They got to get that saltwater taffy. They needed all that kettle corn and the Cape Cod potato chips, all that stuff.
They need branded votive candles and branded like holy water and
That's
shit
amazing.
like that, right?
Later on, that little Alice-themed craft fair pops up so fast with all the candles that have her
Man,
face
you
on it.
you gotta respect that hustle, right?
Oh, you got to. You have to. Literally by law.
I picture a little stand that's like, we got dim Braeburns, dim red delicious, dim yellow golden, dim whatever dim you want. That's
the
what I
Vatican
do.
is. The Vatican sent someone to investigate. That's Monsignor Delgard.
Hell
And,
yeah, the hot priest.
Yeah, he's a hot priest, and his job is to go around fucking up people who say they have miracles. And like he is the official buzzkill of the Catholic Church. He goes and he disproves miracles left and right. And to do that, he's got to show that he goes, there's three classifications a miracle has to abide by. 1, it's got to be a spontaneous cure. 2, it's got to be total. 3, don't feed it after midnight. It's going to turn into a gremlin.
Oh wow!
Those are the rules of a miracle.
Now there have been, many things referring to like Catholic priests doing this. Like this is the premise of like the show Evil, for instance, that like they have investigators go around basically disproving miracles most of the time. So because that is a common theme, I don't know anything about it, but I can only assume that it's based on something in real life.
Yeah, well, I mean, people report miracles to the church, and the church wants to see if by their laws it's a real miracle, and it distracts people from the massive criminality and immorality of much of the priesthood. So it's good business all around. Yeah.
My point is, it just seems like a bad strategy on the Catholic Church to be like, let's go out and disprove all these miracles, rather than being like, yeah, sure, that's a miracle too. They're all miracles.
I think they know a lot of these miracles are going to be disproven anyway. You got to get ahead of that, And also, if you did believe in miracles, much like the old question of the old song asking if you believed in magic. I don't, but some people do. If you do believe in miracles and you think that believing in the wrong miracle could damn your soul for eternity, you're going to want to get it right.
Is that a rule? If you believe,
Is that a rule?
I mean, because then it shades into idolatry, I assume, and things like that. And they take that very seriously in the Catholic Church. Again, crimes against children not taken as seriously, but idolatry taken very seriously. Guys, I'm just going out on a limb here. I'm just saying. Okay, so I can do it. It's okay. I'm Jewish. They have no power over me. Whenever a priest comes to me and they're like, "Do this thing," I'm like, "You have no power over me."
Elliot's going to recommend Spotlight later.
Just as a corrective to the unholy.
I'm a lapsed Catholic, so maybe you and I could start a feud.
Okay. I hope I'm not offending.
Unprove miracles. That'll be our sequel movie that we do.
Yeah, the Unproven. I hope I'm not
boring
offending.
show in the world. We just go around like meh.
I don't know. Could be. But you're right, Dan, because it's like also I know the X-Files when they originally made it, part of the pitch was sometimes it's going to be a real thing and sometimes it's going to be a fake thing that Scully wins out. And they threw that away almost immediately. They're like, it's a lot more fun if it always turns out to be real ghosts and monsters. As opposed to Scooby-Doo.
Creates a huge problem with the character of Scully as it goes on.
Oh, when after 3 years, she's like, I don't believe in aliens. I need to see a 10th person get abducted. There's that character in the DC universe, Dr. 13, who's like, there's always a rational explanation. I don't believe in it. And it's like, you literally live in a superhero universe. Like, just go with it. I don't understand. So anyway, so they sent this guy. Meanwhile, Alice is telling the press about the lady, as she calls her. She says, Mary wants everyone's faith. And they're like, go for it, definitely. And and Jeffrey Dean Morgan's like he pitches to the priests, to the bishop. He goes, "Give me the exclusive on Alice. I'll record the investigation, and if Alice fails, I'll take the blame and I'll set it all up." And Bishop always was like, "This would be a second chance for you in a way." And I don't really know why they agreed to this agreement. It seems like they have everything to lose and nothing to gain.
Like the plot of this whole movie is like that Anakin and Padme meme, where Anakin in this case would be saying, "Mary wants your faith," and Padme's like, "Mary, the mother of Christ, right?"
and then that's
right?
such a good meme. Anyway, Father Hagen.
It's like this is the most important thing to happen to the church in a millennium. So the best person to count on is the drunk, lying, clickbait, supernatural, doll cracking journalist.
Maybe he's just a really good pitch man. Like maybe he's just great in the room, and we're not picking up on it because he rolls up his sleeves. You see, he's got tattoos like he's a chef or some shit. He's serious.
He's a real low energy pitcher, which works in the room because he's making the buyer provide the energy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we've seen that he has that great connection and chemistry with Alice. Since he almost ran her down.
But didn't.
While he was trying, but did not. Good point.
Later, he does give her a mix CD, so they really did connect. There's a line later. I'll skip ahead to it. There's a line later
Let's get to this line.
Where he says, where I have it written down. Hold on. He's giving her this CD, and what is it?
Well, when he said, I got something for you, and I said a mix CD, and then he pulls out a mix CD.
He pulls out a mix CD, and it's got classic rock on it, and he goes, it's also got the stuff kids listen to, Billie Eilish, Rufus Wainwright, Smashing Pumpkins, and I was like, hold on a second. They looked up one contemporary recording artist, and then Smashing Pumpkins, they're in their 50s now. Like, come on, everybody, this is the idea that kids are like, oh, I just can't wait to go home and make a TikTok to the Rufus Wainwright album. Like, this is
gonna pull out my Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness CD that I'm still listening to.
Where's the Toad the Wet Sprocket, man?
Oh.
Yeah. Just the idea that he gave her a mix CD and she wasn't like, what do I do with this? Throws it away.
What is this?
How do I stick this in my phone?
Do I put this in my toaster? I don't understand how to listen to these eagles of which you speak.
But we'll get to that. So Father Hagen finds the Kern doll. He's suspicious. The hooded monster is about to attack him. But then some workers walk into the church and it disappears because I guess it has performance anxiety. Like it just can't. I can't kill someone with so many people watching. And so there's a scene here where Alice is talking to Fenn about, I can hear music now. It's amazing. I'm most listening to country. And he's horrified by this. And he interviews her and she says, Mary answered her prayers for a voice, and Mary wants her and Fenn to spread her word, and she'll actually return Fenn to power in the journalistic world if he helps.
Ooh.
So already she's presenting this as a Virgin Mary who makes deals, which doesn't seem to be. It's like that right there should be a tip off.
Yeah.
That the good side isn't usually like, do what I say and you will receive great power. Like that's usually a bad guy agreement.
Bring me a zinger and things will change for you.
And Uncle Hagen, he's like, I don't like it. Everyone's exploiting Alice. His emphysema is acting up. It's going terrible. I don't want her. In the past, everyone who sees a miracle ends up dying or getting locked up or going crazy. It's terrifying. I don't want that to happen to her. And Jeffrey Morgan does minimal research and finds out the town has an incredible history of superstitions and witch magic. It's like there's so many parts in this where it's like, we have to find out more. Well, let me look at the first piece of paper lying on this desk. There was a witch here. But Alice is singing beautifully for the priests and the investigators. Meanwhile, they're talking while she's singing. It's very rude. And the investigator's like, I disproved all these cases. It's amazing. Father Hagen, suddenly he has a heart attack. Uh-oh. But Alice heals him. And you know what? His emphysema's gone. He can breathe fine again. But he sees a monster behind her. Bump, bump, bump.
Mm-hmm. Again, popping up.
This all seems like it's probably on the up and up.
Just asking for a cup of sugar.
Doesn't she ask him to devote his life to Mary or some shit, or swear on a stack of Marys or something to
Yeah, he does. He says you'll and again, it's such dumb Three's Company garbage where it's like, I met a different Mary.
I know.
It's like
has he found the magic diary yet, or is that later?
No, that's in
with
a
all
little
the sick D&D drawings.
Yeah, so it's a little bit like when Prince wanted to get out of that contract, so he changed his name, and the courts were like, nothing we can do about it. You made an agreement with this name, not with this person. It was the name making that music. His lungs are completely healed. The tree is declared an official Catholic shrine. They really fast-tracked that one. They cut through all the red tape at the Vatican. The news goes viral, as always happens when the Catholic Church declares a shrine. It is the biggest news in the world, and the 24-hour cable networks are all over it. I guess finally the religion correspondent at CNN has a big beat blows up.
Yeah, and it draws tens of people to the location.
The same tens.
I wish that they had really steered into the fact that it was shot during COVID and just had each of those people wearing a sign that said 100 people on it, like a game of Risk, where you're like, this represents 10. This represents 10.
They have those cutouts that they were filling stadiums with, but they just sort of like attach them so there's like two on each side of a person as they walk around.
There's all these excited baseball fans went to go see this shrine. Yeah. Oh, that'd be so funny. So Finn is offered a spot at his old newspaper, but he's like, no, I want to be an editor on the special sections desk. And what he's provided so far doesn't seem rational, but the editor, his old boss is like, I'll get back to you. He's like, you don't get this story without me. And she's like, the biggest story in the world, that a girl had a vision? There's no other stories that big. We've got to have it. So Alice is leaving. She's going to live at the diocese. Fenn gives her that mix CD to remember him by, classic rock, plus some kid stuff, as we mentioned, like Rufus Wainwright. And Alice goes, the lady is pleased with your work. And he's like, that doesn't sound suspicious. Great. That's the night when Father Hagen finds this old book. Stuart, please describe this old 200-year-old notebook that was just lying around.
So yeah, it's in the basement of the church, I think.
It's in the creepy basement full of mannequins with sheets over them.
And it's stuffed in a nook between a couple of stones. When he finds it, he's probably thinking, yay, this is some antique pornography. It is not. It is a diary about, I guess, Evil Mary, the evil witch, and it has some sick drawings of demons in it that are pretty cool.
It looks like it's like a colonial teen's notebook. Like a colonial teen boy was doodling in class.
Yeah.
Doodling
He's
all
like,
these
this is going to be
demons.
on the cover of my mix CD. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, Goody Susan looks hot today.
Yeah.
Mrs. Goodman Proctor is written over and over again on it.
Yeah. I'm just working on some cover art for the first album for my band, Hat Buckle. We're kind of like we're that New England pre-punk sound. So Fenn goes out drinking with the doctor, Dr. Gates, and obviously there are going to be romantic interests, though it's kind of half-baked throughout. And he's like, I made up all these stories to stay famous. And she's like, let me tell you about Kern dolls. Anyway, some of them, they were usually buried.
Are they Kern dolls or Kern babies?
They're Kern.
Are they called Kern? I thought they were called Kern babies because that's funnier.
I don't know.
That's what I'll
Sounds more like a
Babies
thing. Yeah, a Kern baby.
I mean, they were invented by Jerome Kern. That's all I know about. That's the extent of my knowledge.
Yeah, that's the cartoon.
When he
Kern
wasn't writing,
babies with little Jerome Kern.
Yeah, he's just writing for Broadway, but he's a baby. So she's like, these Kern dolls, they're mostly for good luck, but sometimes if they wrapped them in chains, it was because they bound a demon or a witch inside them.
And put a fake date on them.
And put a fake. That's right, because it says like February 30th, 1845 on it, and he was like, stupid calendar, doesn't have that day. Smash. And she's like, well, they chain him up and put a fake date on it, so it was like it couldn't be opened ever. And he's like, I may have made a mistake.
I smashed that doll because I thought it was a Pisces.
And they stumble over to the creek from his dream, and he sees a scary jump scare face in the creek, and he's like, I gotta go talk to Father Hagen about this, because there's no other people in the town. Of course he's gonna talk to Father Hagen.
Gotcha. At that point, too, he does I like it because there's a double jump situation.
Yes.
He's looking into deep. This movie takes its time. I got to tell you what. Like when you're closing in and waiting for the scare, it's sort of like
stretch.
I know you're not about to look at anything, but you're gonna keep doing that for a while longer, and it's just like water, scare, and then he turns around to see his doctor of all trades friend who can read X-rays and read sign language and have access.
She's like, let me translate this ancient this old book. Latin was part of the basic curriculum at medical school, and like maybe it is. I've never been to medical school, but I've never heard another doctor say that. So
They were like, we are gonna pass this Bechdel test or die.
Yeah.
Of course, they taught us the
Right.
international language of science at Cornell Medical College, Latin.
And some Latin, and the Latin to translate the devil papers.
There was that time I was on a flight, and they're like, "Is there a medical doctor on the plane? We need somebody to translate this Latin."
Is there a doctor in the house? I found an old rune. This
Is it cool to break this, Doc?
Should we do that?
I was describing this movie to somebody recently, and I was like, this was a fine movie for like a 12-year-old sleepover party. And part of that is because, like you're saying, the jump scares take so long that it's like the movie is like, okay, is everyone ready? A scary thing's gonna jump out. Ready? Oh, he's still tying his shoes. Hold on.
If you want to leave the room,
if you don't feel comfortable,
5
You
more
hold
minutes.
the popcorn, so because the popcorn has to fly. You get
like
the
you might as well have a
popcorn.
countdown clock in the bottom of the screen that's like countdown to jump scare. 5, 4, 3. Pause. Okay, just to make sure everyone's ready. Again, yes, and jump scare. Okay, we made it. Let's move on. There's a lot of that. So he's gonna go talk to Hagen, but first, Hagen. This is my favorite scene in the movie. This is a scene I actually really liked a lot. Hagen is visited in the confession booth by the evil lady Mary the witch, and you don't see her. She's just on the other side of the confession screen, but she's threatening him in very like graphic terms. And I was like, this is the one scene in the movie where I was like, if it kept going in this direction with this kind of like very straightforward, evil, sinister quality, then I could have seen it doing some interesting things. But
If this was like the first instance of scary shit happening,
yeah,
it would be great. It would be super effective. Like if she had been a little bit tighter on her game and hadn't let all the scary stuff slip earlier.
If she hadn't kept letting her evil part out
I would
without
say,
warning.
Isn't it followed immediately by, I love a good hanging.
Yeah.
Like I love a good like suicide in the church sort of thing. So like that whole little vignette, plus she had that.
Yeah, it was great.
The Irish accent and
Yeah, it's
Solid.
and so he's like, I'm gonna pray to Mary, and she's like, which Mary is stronger, me or your Mary? And he apparently her because they find her. Fenn finds him having been hanged to death in the church. Bump, bump, bump. Yeah, that sequence, if that was the opening of the movie almost, and then the rest of the movie was completely different, it would have been a different movie. And the bishop is like, there's nothing to see here. It's just a normal suicide. And it's one of those things where it's like, shouldn't the bishop be curious about why one of his priests committed suicide if that's actually what happened? Like,
nothing to see here.
Is that really his choice too? Like to proclaim that? Like as the bishop, I'm going to say, don't worry about it.
It's his case, Dan.
He's detective
The precinct
bishop.
gave this one to him. He was just happened to be.
He's a descendant to
catch
Father
this one.
Brown, I guess. But it's like, he's like, it's on church property, therefore American law does not apply. I declare this self-hanging. And he's like, Fenn, could you keep quiet on this? Because we really need more shrines. The world's going to hell, and the only thing that's going to save us is shrines. That's going to back up our faith. And Fenn's like, that's okay. I don't know if I totally buy that logic. But he talks to Alice, and Alice is like, I'm sad, but I still believe in Mary. She's the best. But then Fenn, every time he goes back to his hotel, Mary is there to whisper at him and like kind of hover around as a hooded spooky monster and not do anything. And it's like, is she also staying at that hotel? Is that what it is? Like Mary the witch is also staying at the motel and keeps bumping into him on the way to the ice machine.
She only got paid $150 to be here. So
right.
What do you want?
Speaking of pay, we're assuming he's still staying in that motel. He hasn't gotten paid yet. And yet he goes to this. He goes to the funeral for Father Hagen, and he's wearing different clothes. Like, does he just keep funereal garb in the back of his car? Did he buy those? Like, I don't know.
They're next to the Twin Set and Dim Apples t-shirts.
Thank you.
I think so. Aisle 3.
I like this idea of adventures of Masshole Father Hagen, just like carry always going around being a priest but being real Boston.
Yeah. Real super Boston-y, yeah.
There's an aisle. It's like someone die. And an arrow.
Just eating cream pies and Yankee beans and
Speaking of which, speaking of someone die, I would like to mark that about at this point of which you were speaking, Elliot, we're like, I counted 52 minutes into the movie and it was before Mr. Father Hagen died. And I
Yeah.
had written in my notes, someone die with exclamation marks because I was getting so like you.
This movie has such an incredibly low body count, which again, if it was a real life story, good. I want it to be. I want every real life story to have minimal body count. But if it's a movie, like, come on, there's like drop some guys on the floor. Come on, let's do this.
That's why Elliot's watching the Muppet movie. Like, when are one of them gonna die?
Come on, you hit Gonzo's car with your car. Someone should have perished in that crash. I'm like, oh, well, at least at the end, I know Kermit's legs are going to get chopped off by Doc Hopper. Maybe that'll make up for it.
Are you telling me that Rolf is more interesting alive than dead? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Oh, no.
Rolf is one of those characters I appreciate more as a grown-up. But as a kid, I was always like, enough Rolf stuff. Enough with Rolf.
There's
like, I found him
something
so
irresistible. We got a grin because the nights are long. Hit it, guys.
I hope
there's
that
something
something
better
better comes along.
But yeah, that's
Mic drop.
every time I'd watch the Muppet Show as a kid and Rolf would come on and be like, oh, God, he's going to sing some song. It's not going to be funny, but he's going to waggle his eyes like he thinks it's funny. And anyway, but of course, Jim Henson, I'm sure, was like, I love this character. He's amazing.
Oh, he totally did. I think that I had the same thing. As a kid, I'm like, well, now there's just going to be some piano playing, but now I love that dog so much.
I will
Ralph's
say I have, as a screenwriter, there are entire characters and character arcs that are in things that I do only to amuse me. I cannot defend them. If you ask me to, I will just say, because that's cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
It made me laugh. You're by yourself a long time
That's
and you're
great.
writing. Like, you just...
So, I mean, it just worries me because at a certain point, Jim Henson became more Rolf than man. And that was not good for him. You know, when his family would walk into his room and they'd hear two voices and they'd walk in, it was just Jim. And it turned out he was talking to himself as Rolf in the middle of the night. Very scary. Not as scary as the Unholy, though, because as we'll see, checking his interview footage, thank you, Fenn sees that Mary's blurry shape has appeared next to Alice. And then it disappears. He pauses the image and then the video, and then Mary keeps moving and then disappears.
Yeah. And
that
it's like,
makes him
come on,
suspect
dude.
something might be going on, huh?
Come on, dude. Like, Sinister. Like, I'm not a huge fan of the movie Sinister, but at least that movie did that shit right. Like, if you're gonna do like weird video shenanigans, at least do it right.
Yeah.
That's what the rave from you on the poster for Sinister says. Does weird video shenanigans right? Stuart Wellington.
That's a rave.
Yeah, that's right. So he goes, anyway, he asks the doctor, he goes, can you show me the church records? And she has to, because she's the only other person in the movie. It doesn't really make sense that she's the one you would go to find them. And while Hagen's funeral's going on, they go to that spooky basement. They find the demon diary. This is when the doctor says, oh, I know Latin. I learned it in medical school. And she translates that it was the hanging of the witch and bride of Satan, Mary Elnor. And Mary was a miracle worker who claimed to speak for the Virgin Mary, but she killed anyone who challenged her, and then she confessed to serving Satan, so they had a Virgin Mary mask nailed to her face, which seems like overkill, and then they hung her, burned her, and her ashes were put in that turn doll. Oh, boy.
Yeah, I mean, like,
we're not messing around back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if this person's a demon, like, I feel like the church should have been like, there should have been somebody who was like, okay, agreed, we have to deal with the demon. Do we have to nail a mask to her face? Is that part of, like, what we do as the church right now?
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
And also, does it have to sound sort of like I'm eating pickles when I nail the mask? Like I was trying to figure out what the fuck that sound was.
That sound at the beginning is so funny because it's like, someone's hitting a wet sock against a wall, and you're like, what? Like, it's such a goofy sound.
And
but
what do I know? I have not had the fortune to be at a mask nailing ever in my life.
No.
So who's to say?
And I imagine the guy walks up with the mask and the nails, and someone's like, is that part of it? And he goes, it's not strictly regulation.
It's not part of it.
Do you have just a
so I guess
strap that we could use instead of those things? Or?
They're like, we're all done here. He's like, but I brought the mask and nails. They're like, oh,
Charlie,
fine.
Go ahead, get it out of your system.
It's gonna whine all night otherwise.
And
So
Alice
this is where they after reading this scary story, they're like, oh, this is pretty scary. And then they look over and they're like, man, was this room always filled with mannequins covered in fucking sheets? And they're like, I guess so. So they walk over and they pull one off. Turns out it's just a very happy looking Jesus statue. And you're like, okay, this looks a little weird. It looks like Buddy Jesus.
It does look like Buddy Jesus. It's like a puckishly like little rascal Bob's Big Boy smiling Jesus. And you understand why they threw a sheet over it. They were like, this is ridiculous. We can't put this in the church. It arrives and they call up the the relic set the statue manufacturer and they're like, you got to take this back. It looks ridiculous. Like that smile. What? Jesus is a happy guy. He died for our sins. He's in heaven now. No. This goes beyond the pale. Well, we have a no returns policy. Okay, put it in the basement. Put a sheet over it.
So we had this like fake out scare. And then immediately a different mannequin turns out that it's Scary Mary, and she flies at them, and then they just like fly out of the church, and that's the end of the scene.
Right?
They like it's edited super weird,
and then they're kind of like, "Well, that was weird. That happened."
It's like that. Mary is like, they left the room. I'm powerless to stop them. I can't get to them anywhere else. I only have a puddle
of water to read.
She's going through her location card deck, and she's like, "Oh, I already used up forest and field. What do I have left?" Meanwhile, while that's happening, Alice tells everyone, "Hey, Mary wants us to hold a big event for her at the Shrine Tree tomorrow," and everyone's like, "Yeah, definitely."
But we have to pretend like it wasn't Mary's idea. She wants it to be a surprise, so everybody.
And Fenn, his boss calls and is like, "You got the job. You can be the editor of your own demons and cattle section of the newspaper. Whatever you want to put in it." It's like, I mean, this is the field that I got forced into. It's not what my passion is. I don't care. You want to make it about girls who used to not talk and now they talk? Great. It's going to be a special insert every day in the paper. You got pages to fill. Let's get to it.
It is a weird, for someone who was, ruined their career by lying. I feel like Supernatural is a weird choice of thing to get into. Mm-hmm. Like the place where it's just like
it's a solid show. It was on for seasons and seasons. There's so many episodes to catch up on. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
I thought it was a statement of the malleability of truth in today's current socio-political climate. Mm-hmm. I was assuming. Were you guys not catching that at all?
No, it makes sense.
I'm pretty bright, Sue.
What is politics except a sort of black magic that deals with the wills of the weak? Yeah, sure, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Definitely. Yeah, I never even thought about that, huh? I was so focused on the Kern babies.
This podcast makes you think.
You made this show so much smarter. Usually we just talk about like butts.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got thoughts on that too.
So normally when I watch a movie, I leave my third eye closed, but I guess I should have made it open. That was my mistake.
So how do you open it? What do you do to open up that third eye?
The first thing is you got to make sure to moisturize. Okay.
It goes without saying.
I guess if there's no eye there in the first place, it's going to need to be pretty pliable for it to
you don't want a dry and cracked forehead. That's step one.
Obviously, our listeners who are tuataras, that's a New Zealand lizard that has a light-sensitive patch of cells on the top of its head that might have been a third eye at one point. You don't have to listen to this. Your third eye is always open. That's just what you do. But most of our listeners are not tuataras. And so, Stuart, what's step number 2?
Step number 2. So you go and you go into Spotify and you queue up every single Tool album and you hit shuffle.
And you want to remove Third Eye Blind from your playlist, right? That's
it seems ironic, but yes, you're right, Elliot. It's a common mistake. That's why.
Okay, that's more of Stu Wellington's tips for living. You can find more of that at his website, wellingtonworld.com.
It's a daily feature in the paper. I got it from all my Supernatural.
I remember when you found that Supernatural story that was a worldwide hit, and now you have your special lifestyle section of the newspaper.
I'm in charge. I run the twin set section.
Very specific newspaper.
Always news and twin sets, yeah.
I let you handle cattle tattooing.
Yeah, that's. I've been. How long I've been on the cattle tattooing beat? I can't.
You're jaded. You're a little jaded. I don't know.
A little bit. I feel like I've seen it all, but every now and then I kind of come across a cattle tattoo that really blows my mind, and I'm like, no, there's something new here. There's something still new to be done. Yeah,
I still feel something in here. You think?
Yeah,
you see that tattooed cattle rear.
When I see that cow and there's a tattoo on the back of a Grateful Dead skeleton with roses all over it, all around, I'm like, you know what? Yes, there is a reason to keep getting up in the morning. Sure, yeah.
Like Angel is my centerfold on a cow's ass. I don't know. That was a reach, but Let's go into placebo effects.
Okay. Oh, sure.
Wow.
Okay. So, Fenn, he's like, Fenn turns his old boss down. He tries to warn the bishop, but the bishop is like, yeah, I knew about that witch, Mary Eleanor. Who gives a shit? I don't care. And he's like,
He really is. He's like, you bore me.
It's like, it doesn't matter. Fenn, he goes and he realizes, he does some more research in the dark. He reads a microfilm and he finds out that Mary had a son who is Alice's ancestor. She's going to live again through Alice. She can only come back to life through her descendants. The microfilm burns up. There's a statue explodes. There's monster in there. Anyway, the investigator comes in and saves him. He's reading all these prayers to stop the evil Mary. And then this was kind of a cool thing where Mary does some magic and the ink in his prayer book, just the letters turn back to ink and run off. If it wasn't CGI, it would have looked cooler.
It's quite a comment on print media, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That it's
See,
racist.
Stuart, now.
guess.
Now
Yeah.
you're
Wow.
getting it.
Oh, wow.
Okay,
It's opening.
I guess this is a rich text. You're
You're
right.
thinking.
Yeah.
Now
Al-
I think we can all agree that Mary's got a lot of fucking powers, right? It's not just when people are like, "Fuck, I'm going to turn her and run the other way," and then she's immediately there. She does that all the time in this.
Constantly,
But she can
yeah.
also like make shit explode, make ink melt. Everything. Burn microfiche.
Bleeding Jesus eyes.
Bleeding Jesus.
That's what like Robin. I think Batman and Robin is like bleeding Jesus eyes. Batman.
And like the person
I thought it
who
was an
cleans
old,
the
like, sort
church
of,
is
like,
like,
blues
"Fuck."
musician.
Yeah, that'd be good too. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Mary's got a lot of powers. None of them are that helpful, really, because the investigator still prays her away. He's like, prayer, 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 and she leaves. And
Yeah.
they're like, everyone at the service is in danger. She's going to ask them to give their faith. Their faith is empowering the evil, and she's going to ask them to give their faith in Mary 3 times. And if they say yes 3 times, by the 3rd time, their souls are damned forever. Which seems like a bad. Like if that's the game you're playing.
I have a question,
Like-
Elliot. Is that
Yes.
true? I missed that.
Is that true?
I missed that part.
I haven't done
I
the
was
research.
Good question.
They do say
very-
that they're like, and then they do it twice, and the evil Mary is like, this is it, and it's one of those things where it's like,
Oh,
there was a
Beetlejuice
time
right?
period in Russia in like the 18th century, I think it was, where there was a big argument over, do you cross yourself with 2 fingers or with 3 fingers? And people were like, I got to do this the right way, because if I do it the wrong way, I'm going to go to hell forever. And I wonder how many people managed to get to the point of like, why is it so important to God whether I do this with 2 fingers or 3 fingers? I don't get. And so with the idea that God would be like, look, I know it was under false pretenses that you were pledging to my mom, Mary, and not to this evil witch, but you did it 3 times. My hands are tied. I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do about it. You know,
It'd be really funny to find out that God's really into numerology, and you're like, God, you're in control of all of this. Like, why are you into this thing? It's like, I don't know, it just works. Yeah, because you're God.
3 is a power number, everyone. That God is just looking up his horoscope every day. Is like, maybe today's a good day to get a new job. Hold on.
Yeah. It's like, oh man, this fucking Mercury retrograde is killing me.
I wish there's something I could do about it. So we see all the Alice merch being sold outside the shrine. I don't know where they got the licenses to set up these merch tables, but I guess that's something that they
from
just did.
God.
And the bishop tells the security
or
guys,
Mary.
the bishop tells the security guys, keep Fenn out of here. We don't need him. Just send him away.
He's like showing him pictures on his phone, right? It's great. He
Yeah, he
like
shows
pulled
a
up his
picture of Fenn.
Wikipedia page.
And the bishop, Carrie Always, he starts the service, and the investigator is blessing some stuff for Fenn to use in the fight. I don't even remember what he blesses because I don't think they use any of it. Because he's like, now I light. This is a part that could have been so Abbott and Costello, and it kind of was. He was like, now I just gotta light a match and light this candle, and we'll be all blessed. And he lights the match, and the wind blows it out. Oh, okay. Let me just do one more. Lights the match, wind blows it out, and it's Mary creating winds. But it's so funny because
Yeah,
he's
like Mary
okay,
will appear behind him,
Third
blow
match?
out the match, and then she disappears, and you're like,
and she does a little laugh like the dog in Duck Hunt when you miss both of the ducks, and then ducks back down. Anyway, the evil Mary, she causes a big crucifix to light on fire, and then the crucifix falls on top of the Monsignor and kills him. And it was like, movie, you're trying hard, but you're not making up for the lack of deaths up to this point.
yeah, that one
And
was good. I like that one.
Statues are crying blood. It's also one of those moments where you're like, why was this Monsignor character in the movie? He kind of didn't really investigate very much, and he was totally ineffectual here. I guess they just needed a body. So Fenn is like, doubt's the only thing that fights faith, just like in the movie of the same name. We need to make them based on the hit play. We need to make them doubt Mary. How are we going to do it? And Alice is having everyone hail her. They're calling her Mary of Banfield because Banfield is the town. And suddenly Alice starts getting demonized, which should have been a real sign to the people in the front row, at least, that this wasn't going great. And Fenn walks in and he starts shouting, "I faked it all. I faked the miracles. I faked it." And meanwhile, the doctor
he's not even mic'd up. Like they wouldn't hear his ass.
No, well, they're kind of ignoring him for a while. And the doctor walks in and goes, "Alice, Mary's evil. She's using you. She's lying to you." And what's funny is that no one seems to know. Alice sees the doctor and hears her. No one else in the room seems to notice the doctor yelling these things at all. They're having a private conversation at either end of a crowded tent. Well, Alice is on stage. There's a lot going on in this room, and the bishop eventually is like,
but like, I'm not really sure what he thinks he's going to do by saying that he faked it all when she is clearly like on stage able to like talk and hear. Like I don't know, like this is a very weird strategy when there's empirical evidence that something did happen, whether or not it was a miracle. Like just being like, I faked it.
It reminds me a little bit. There's the French lady who was the longest recorded living person. She lived like 125 years old, and people are like, it's a fake. When her daughter was in her 30s and she was in her 50s, she switched places with her daughter, and she's been living under her daughter's name. And I'm like, and it's like, but you would have to know for that plan to work. You'd have to know that you would live to be like 100 years old. Like it doesn't really make sense as a plan.
I guess that recent human history should prove to me that like evidence is not worth anything when it comes to people's
Of course
beliefs.
not, Dan. Well, the way that like every video that goes up on TikTok, people are like, let's look a little deeper and see what the conspiracy is behind this one. So, I don't know. I think the guy just didn't notice his girlfriend walked into the room, and that's why it took him a minute to recognize her. Like, no. Well, we have to look at what happened here.
Yeah.
It's like the three ladies and the baby ghost.
Three ladies and the baby ghost.
gotta get in there. It's Halloween time. I was also researching. I have this weird thing. Like now that I've like done. Well, I love props. I love props on movies, and I love how much commitment there is. Like the things that are kind of to the side of the scene. It's so cool. I would come back as a props master in my next life. But so I was watching. This one had great like commentary on the scroll line as it's doing the live screen as everyone thinks Mary is coming back to the earth, and it's like, is Alice vegan? Is Alice all these great I was like great little questions. Then I had watched Brahms the Boy 2, and his list was saying, it was the possessed doll, and he was saying, Edwin says, never leave Edwin alone. Edwin says, never leave him. He always has to be a part of the family. Edwin likes to be nattily dressed and look very good. And then you scroll down further, and it says, never eat in the freezer, and all exclamation marks. And I'm obsessed with why Edwin does or does not want to eat in the freezer. Please, anyone listening to this, if this has not been edited, which I hope it has been, but send my Twitter feed. Is there a backstory that Edwin does not like to eat in a freezer, and also how does one do that?
Yeah, Edwin, if you're listening,
this is from Brahms the Boy 2, right?
This is Brahms the Boy 2, and the list that Edwin creates.
All right, well.
And
Stu, open up a case file for this mystery.
He just looks like an Edwin. I don't know that that's his name. He could be a Charlie.
Charlie, Edwin.
I like the idea of assigning names to characters in movies when you don't remember what their name is. You're like, then there's this part in Casablanca where Steven is talking to Rachel, and he's just like, why'd you have to walk into my bar, Rachel?
Oh, Cody.
So Cody, that's at the end when Cody says to Madison, this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. And so the bishop is like, you know what? Security, I know I told you to keep Fenn out. Just let him talk. Why not? And Fenn is like, I made the whole story up. And Doctor's like, Alice, fight Mary. And their two stories are really at cross purposes. That Fenn is like, there was no Mary. I made it up. And the Doctor is feet away yelling, Alice, fight Mary. She's trying to take over your body. They got to get their stories straight. It's confusing. But and Mary tells Alice, without their souls, I'll never let you speak again. And that's when Alice tells the crowd, Mary's not real. We made it all up. We made it all up. And the crowd is instantly like, boo, we don't like you. Boo, you lying girl. Boo.
And then Mary's like, I tried to do this the easy way. And then cracks her super long, scary knuckles and jumps out of a burning tree.
Yep, the tree lights on fire. Everyone runs out. And the kid Alice healed, his legs stopped working. So the doctor has to carry him because his parents, I guess, abandoned him in the burning room when the minute the trouble started. It was a real force majeure moment for that kid.
Also, because Katie Azelton, God bless her, who I love, was criminally underused and was assigned only to explain anything doctor related and or to run errands. Because remember, like at one point they're like running to the hospital to save the day, and he's like, "You go that way," and he's like, she sends her completely off screen, and then this is like, "You scoop the boy." She seemed to be given a series of semi pointless
menial tasks.
Menial tasks.
Very nothing part, but she made enough of an impression that I looked her up. I didn't realize that she was
on The League. I love The League so much.
Well, and along with being an actor, she directed Black Rock, which was a horror movie I enjoyed with Lake Bell and Kate Bosworth.
I didn't know that. That's a great movie.
Yeah.
All right, well, use her more, dang it.
Yeah.
I say.
Let's a Dr. Gates spinoff. In the next one, The Unholy 2, which is about two unholy people.
Unholier.
You know what? And then
Unholier is pretty good too.
There's The Unholy 3 is a movie. That's a movie that exists already. So maybe they're tied in. Those two.
Don't eat in the freezer. Unholy 3.
We'll reboot that.
Yeah. So the
who owns the estate of Todd Browning?
I think it was thrown away, to be honest. But yeah, The Unholy 3. And he did two different versions of it, right? The silent version and the sound version of The Unholy 3. Both of them good. Both of them involve the main character.
Unholy 6 now.
But yeah, both of them involve the main male villain dressing up as an old lady for kind of unnecessary reasons. So Mary emerges from that flaming tree.
It was to spend more time with his kids, right? Because
so that's what The Unholy 3 is about.
His ex-wife is dating Pierce Brosnan, right?
Yeah, his ex-wife is dating
familiar,
James Bond. So all he can do is, I wonder if maybe there's a world where I'm making this an official, unofficial movie crossover. Mrs. Doubtfire is now a sequel to The Long Good Friday, and the Pierce Brosnan who Sally Field is dating is the same character who's like a young gangster assassin in The Long Good Friday. So you know what? It's the same universe. Prove me wrong.
Yep.
You can't.
Okay. You can't.
Wouldn't want to.
I haven't shown my kids Mrs. Doubtfire yet. What do you guys think? Should I? Is it okay to show or not in today's world?
I'm not.
I believe I watched. I think I watched the end of it while on a cruise ship a few years ago.
Okay,
and I remember it being less cool than I thought it was.
Okay, because when you were a kid, you went Doubtfire crazy. You just thought it was the coolest.
Yeah.
You started dressing like
There's
Mrs.
no
Doubtfire.
That this movie is fire.
Yeah, there's no doubt this movie is fire. Because I have been, my kids have been watching Aladdin a lot recently, and it's a movie that I get a lot of joy out of, but it is like the original animated one, but it is like a deeply offensive movie. Like everything about it is ridiculously stereotyped. So maybe I shouldn't show them Mrs. Doubtfire too.
And
maybe
whatever you do not read them the actual correct Little Mermaid after they've seen the Disney, because it involves her. She can't speak. Every step feels like razors and knives going into her feet. The boy ends up marrying someone else. She is assigned by, I think, some sort of sea witch to assassinate his wife. And while standing over him, she loses her last challenge, which is do this all before sunrise. And she turns into sea foam and is gone and floats on the cold sea forever. So there's no kiss the girl is not in that.
It's weird they changed the story.
So kiss the girl. Well, what about Under the Sea? Do they sing Under the Sea?
Yes, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
They sing the song On the Surface of the Sea. That's what the sea foam sings at the end. Yeah. Do they
Kiss
have
the girl's in there? Is Along Came a Spider?
Yeah, it's full of James Patterson novels. Yeah. That'd be so funny if James Harrison it was inspired because he saw The Little Mermaid in the theater and he was like, kiss the girl. What if it was more than one girl and a murder?
There's something here.
He does. I don't know if he still does. You guys live in the New York area. Does he still do his TV commercials where he advertises his own books?
Every once in a while, yeah.
I love those. They're so funny.
Really great.
I remember the one for Jack and Jill, where it's just him holding the book and he goes, Jack and Jill. Jack and Jill, my new novel. And it was like, okay, it's just...
Now, Gillian, as a novelist, would you ever consider doing an advertisement like this?
You got to do...
Come
Gone and girl.
You're just like, I'm gone,
yeah.
girl. In stores now.
Gerunds are hot. I know. Going girl.
What if
People
objects
love.
were sharp?
You couldn't take them on planes anymore. Wait, they're gonna hurt my sales.
But you can't, and then you go, but so you can take my book on planes, please. Seriously, you continue to take my books on
But
planes.
please do. I'm serious, people.
Yeah, this is one sharp object you can take anywhere.
Anyway, Mary emerges from that flaming tree. She takes off her mask to reveal her skull face. Ugh, gross.
Pretty cool,
And the
pretty
bishop is
cool.
like, God help me. He doesn't. Mary vaporizes him and he just
Yeah.
dissolves into dust. And she's like teleporting around, shrieking at Fen and Alice. It feels like Fen is really the guy she should be mad at, but instead she's really doing her best to not kill him for a while. For some reason, she decides to crawl around all scary, creepy like the ring
Cricket
girl.
creep.
It's
Cricket creep.
yeah, the cricket creep. And then she's trying to kill Fen, but Alice jumps in front and I guess blocks the magic with her own
Catches
body.
the hyper blast right in the chest,
He goes, Shuriken.
immediately killing Mary. And Mary looks at the camera and explodes.
Yeah, because she's killed her only descendant, so now she's gone forever. And
The
and
school.
Jeffrey
I thought the school looked pretty good.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
that was pretty
Yeah.
cool. I was enjoying that.
it was a cool monster face. She had a cool monster face. Yeah,
Yep.
her MF was a cool one. That means monster face. So that's why when people are
MF
like
Doom.
MFer, you're like, you mean monster facer.
Monster
Thank you
facer?
very much.
Yep.
Yeah.
I will take that all day long.
Yeah.
What's the name, Stuart, of the makeup show where they make the monster faces?
Face Off.
Face Off. That's what it is.
Yeah. It's great.
I did not. On what? Where? Where did
It
I
was
find
on
that?
the Sci-Fi. It was on the Sci-Fi Channel. It's a reality
I
competition
want to
show
go to
between.
there.
Gillian got such a dreamy, faraway look in her eye when she heard this existed.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite of the reality competition shows because it's all makeup artists and they like everybody helps each other and they're all like so
Right.
excited. And then like there was one episode, I mentioned this on the show before, but it's still worth it, where they like teased who the special guest was, and all you saw was a silvery white ponytail. And I was like, is that Julian fucking Sands? And I said that out loud to my wife, and she's
Yeah.
like, what are you talking about? And then no, it was Rick Baker, who is also fucking sweet.
Yeah.
And then they had like
And it
they
would
had like
make more sense.
and they had
to be
like
there.
Todd McFarlane on one time as a guest, and I'm like, Charlene, this is really cool.
Just like Charlene, he owns two baseballs that used to be very valuable. Fen is like, he has a very low energy prayer to God where he's like, God, I don't know, whatever I'm supposed to do, please save Alice. And Alice wakes up. She's alive again, but she is once again deaf and mute. The miracles have been rescinded, which means they were not real miracles. Sometime later, it's unclear how much time, Alice and Gates and Fen meet up at Hagen's grave, and the local paper is hiring, and Dr. Gates really wants Fen to take that job so he can live in town and she can domesticate him, I guess. And Fen is like, I believe in miracles now because Alice's revival was a miracle. And they're like, yeah, maybe there are miracles. And then we see another statue of the Virgin Mary crying blood. And
Yeah,
you're
'cause
like,
immediately
wait a
you're
minute,
like-
what? Hold on.
Well,
Yeah, like,
because
is this
her
good?
her ancestor's still alive.
Yeah, I just don't know. Like at that point, like Mary, what?
Well, Mary can
Well,
come
that's true,
back
'cause
because her
Alice is still
ancestor's
alive.
still alive. Yeah.
So you think Mary was like, no, wait, I'm back. Like she was being dissolved into nothingness and then kind of pulled herself
and
back.
it carries along the theme that with every miracle, there's something dark nearby. You know, like the devil builds a
Yes.
house next door.
They
Not
say
to
a couple
quote
times
Martin
that
Luther.
Yeah, that Martin Luther said the devil builds a house next to every church, which you got to assume that there's probably a zoning law about that somewhere. You can't like you can't
It's-
open a
you're
barn in your
required
church,
to.
but the devil can build a house. That seems
And
crazy.
And didn't he get a job working at the local newspaper? And I'm like, how big's this town? I've only seen like 5 people.
Well, my newspaper is really more of a mimeographed flyer that they paste on the village bulletin board in the center of town. Yeah,
it's the menu for the local diner with all the ads.
When I say the local paper is hiring, I meant the menu. They need someone to type it up.
You know when you're eating at a place that has like a local menu that has local ads, you're like, the food here is going to be fucking amazing.
There's nothing that says success to me more than when I go to a diner, I sit down and there's a placemat, and outside the diner has the logo of the restaurant in the middle, and outside the border edge is just ads for local businesses. I say, I'm going to eat something great.
I'm getting the fucking pork roll. This is going to be fire. No doubt.
There's gonna be a salad on this menu that has more meat than vegetables in it. It's gonna be great.
It always has like everything. That's when you know you're at a good place. Where it's like, do I want the Greek salad or do I want the mashed potatoes, the roast beef,
lobster thermidor?
I like when
do I want the lasagna or the sushi or the hamburger or the souvlaki or the
beef
borscht
tartare
or the
great
or this? How's the naan at this place? Tell me, how is it? How's the bulgogi at this?
Should I order the Impossible Burger that's written into the margins?
Do I want Ethiopian food or just like a big slice of chocolate cake? There's just too many options.
I like when a local ad has like just like a caricature of the guy who owns the business, and everyone, because everyone around town's like, yeah, that's him.
That's him. Yeah.
It's sort of. I mean, as our journalists could tell you, fame is seductive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the hubris of it, because like if that guy ever commits a crime, everyone knows what he looks like now.
That's a bad idea.
But he's just setting himself up.
As we have discovered, this little town does not breed very intelligent villains. Everyone is sort of like, hey, I'm bad. Take this thing I'm giving you. Also, they need to have a fire sale on all those items with Mary, about the miracle. I don't know what they're going to do with all those.
Someone's like, the candle, the personalized candle store was like, we got to close down, no business, ring, ring. 1,000 candles with Alice's face on them? Certainly. And then... guys, put it into production. We're coming back. Reopen the factory. And then a couple days later, like, I got some bad news. The boom has ended. It's a bust now. The Alice candle bubble has popped.
Fire sale.
I mean, I feel like you just immediately sell it all to the, like, I don't know, Morbid Anatomy Museum or something.
That closed, Stuart.
They do a pop up at the Bell House every once in a while.
Oh, okay. Then that's fair.
Hey there, I'm Ellen Weatherford.
And I'm Christian Weatherford.
And we've got big feelings about animals that we just gotta share.
On Just the Zoo of Us, your new favorite animal review podcast, we're here to critically evaluate how each animal excels and how it doesn't, rating them out of 10 on their effectiveness, ingenuity, and aesthetics.
Guest experts give you their takes informed by actual, real-life experiences studying and working with very cool animals like sharks, cheetahs, and sea turtles.
It's a field trip to the zoo for your ears.
So if you or your kids have ever wondered if a pigeon can count, why sloths move so slow, or how a spider sees the world, find out with us every Wednesday on Just the Zoo of Us, which can now be found in its natural habitat on MaximumFun.org.
Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Strange planets, curious technology, and a fantastic vision of the distant future. Featuring Martin Starr.
So we're going on day 14. Shuttle still hasn't come.
Aparna Nancherla.
The security system provides you with emotional security. You do the rest.
Echo Kellum.
Can you disconnect me or not?
Hurry Kondabolu.
I'm staying.
From Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Jeffrey McGivern.
Could you play Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Want to Have Fun?
It's The Outer Reach. Stories from Beyond.
Now available for free at MaximumFun.org or anywhere you listen.
The Flophouse is sponsored in part by Storyblocks. Storyblocks makes it possible for creators to keep up with the growing demands for modern video content so you can bring all your stories to life and stop sacrificing your vision due to time, budget, or resources. Storyblocks' unlimited all-access plan gives you unlimited downloads of the over 1 million plus assets in their library. You can try out multiple options quickly and find the perfect fit so you can create more and spend less. Restock is their commitment to increase representation in stock media by hiring creators from marginalized communities to create content that is more reflective of the diverse world we live in. Stay on budget while telling the best version of your story with the most affordable subscription plans and tools on the market that scale to meet your needs. I've used Storyblocks myself. I find it easy to use, high quality video, very, like basically anything you could think of. Type in for search, you can find it. So if you're interested,
Dan, what did you type? What did you type in to find the shot of slices of ham on a plate that you used?
I think I just typed ham in, and there were many different options, and I chose what I deemed to be the funniest stock footage of ham. Mm-hmm. But you can explore their library and subscribe today at storyblocks.com/flop. That's storyblocks.com/flop.
The Flophouse is also sponsored in part by Smalls. Give your feline friend protein-packed meals they'll crave with Smalls. Smalls is fresh, human-grade food for cats delivered right to your doorstep. All cats are obligate carnivores. They need fresh, protein-packed meals. Conventional cat food is made using low-quality, cheap meat byproducts, grains and starches coated in artificial flavors. With the help of cat nutritionists, Smalls develops complete and balanced recipes for all life stages. Smalls recipes are gently cooked to lock in protein, vitamins, minerals, and moisture. Better quality ingredients means a better, healthier life for your cat. Since switching to Smalls, cats have experienced improved digestion and a less smelly litter box, Dan. Softer, shinier
I haven't
coats.
been pooping the litter box. I don't know why you said it that way.
Maybe it's time for you to start because someone's got to make up for that lessened smell.
Plus better breath. I have a couple of picky kitties at home, and one of the nice things with Smalls, they give you a little guide on how to slowly introduce Smalls into their dietary regimen, and it seems to be working, particularly for one of my cats that has a tooth problem. Obviously, send your best wishes to me on Twitter. Meatball's having a little bit of a tooth issue, but I think he'll be okay in the long
read
run.
them all to Meatball, I assume.
So you can go over and take a short quiz on smalls.com/flop to customize your sampler and then use the code FLOP for a total of 30% off your first order. That's right. That's smalls.com/flop. Code FLOP.
Do either of you have stuff to plug?
Always. I own a couple of small businesses. They're bars in New York City, Brooklyn to be specific. And you know what? We'd love you to come by and say hi. Hinterland's Bar in Kensington or Minnie's Bar in Sunset Park. Just come on by and say hi. Why not?
And in time for Shocktober, that's right. I'll have a new collection of my comic book Maniac of New York coming out in early November, it turns out. So just when you're all scared out from Halloween, keep that scare going, because I think it comes out the first week of November, the collected trade of the first 5 issues of Maniac of New York from Aftershock Comics.
It's great.
It's the story that asks, what if Jason Takes Manhattan was good? And boom, bam, 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 shots fired, shots fired.
Took place primarily in Manhattan.
Yes, it actually took place in Manhattan, yeah. And there'll be a second Maniac of New York series starting at the beginning of next year, but the issues are starting to be available for pre-order. Go to your local comic book store, tell them, I want the Maniac of New York trade paperback, and I want to start getting the issues for Maniac of New York Volume 2, The Bronx is Burning. The first one's called Maniac of New York Volume 1, The Death Train. And yeah, get ready to buy them. Go to your comic book store and pre-order them. Tell them to order them for you so that you can just
make
go in
mine
and pick them
Maniac.
up. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, from the Merry Maniac Marching Society, say, make mine Maniac. Face front, true believers, Excelsi Scare.
Can't say it.
Well, I guess on that note, we'll get back to the meat of the show.
What?
Gross. I don't know why I said it
Disgusting.
that way. Let us do a final judgments.
Okay.
A Shocktober final judgments about this.
If you want, sure.
Whether this movie. Thank you for the validation. Is this movie totally scarifying, totally snorifying, or frighteningly funny? I'm going to say.
Why not?
I'm going to go, and I'm going to say it's snorifying.
Give it to us. Sure.
The thing about this movie.
All right.
Sure.
In the mini we released last week, we talked a bit about Midnight Mass, and I was thinking about how like I guess slight thematic spoilers for Midnight Mass, but like the notion that appealed to me about that show was that these characters could go through this like horrifying experience, and because they're seeing it through the lens of religion, misinterpret it as being a miracle, a blessing, and like the tragedy of it is a genuinely good man of God like making that mistake. And this movie has a lot of the same ideas. It's like, oh, what if like we misinterpret these miracles as being good, but just does it in such a just slow way. Like the only way you're going to get scared watching this movie is if you fall asleep and have a nightmare during the span. I mean, like
it will be like you get an email that has bad news about your car insurance.
So anyway.
Dan, you're saying that what Puck says at the end of Midsummer's Night's Dream is what you're hoping for with this movie, that you fall asleep and you enjoy something. Yeah.
Yeah, this movie was totally snorifying.
Yeah, I feel like to draw comparisons to another thing that is another Netflix property, the Fear Street series, I feel like dealt with a similar type of like evil, spooky thing from the past in a much more fun way. So watch that instead. This was snorifying. No, thank you.
I'm also going to say snorifying. I think there was when it first started up, I was ready to give it the benefit of the doubt because it was like it was okay. Like it starts out okay, and then it just kind of treads water for most of the movie. But like I said, I think it's snorifying. But like I said, if you are trying to introduce the idea of horror movies to like a kid, like an adolescent, this might not be the worst one because it's not really that scary, and it kind of gets the idea across of what a scary movie is like. As opposed, like when I was a kid, I jumped into the deep end way too quickly, and I didn't watch horror movies for a while after that because they were too much for me. But if I'd seen something like this, I would have been like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I can watch horror movies." So it's like a training wheels horror. It's like a baby's first horror movie, which is horrifying to someone like me who's seen it all and needs increasingly extreme gore to even just get my fear boner up. So
fear boner.
You're like, Cenobites, is that all you got? Give me more, please.
I'm like, yeah, exactly. So he's got pins in his head. Big whoop. Okay, sure.
Oh, fish hooks through my eyes. Oh, ho hum. Who cares?
But Gillian, what did you think?
I would say, huge points for getting this done during COVID. I sure the fuck didn't get anything done during COVID. And I would also note that as someone who has written and done movies and TV, I would like to invite anyone involved with this project to make fun of me, and they can come on my guest Twitter, and they can mock anything they want. So I would like to offer that. No one else in the world should ever say anything bad. But because
anyone involved with the production of The Unholy, it's a free pass.
You get a pass.
Free pass. Yeah. We might re-meet on, if you guys can turn over the, I think it'd be the world's most exciting podcast for you. They come back and people just take hits. But, I agree with you kind of, Elliot, that it was sort of, it has all the rhythms there, but I felt like no one's heart was maybe entirely in it. It's sort of like, let's make this thing.
And I can only assume budgetary constraints.
I think it would be interesting to see what is the version of this that isn't, because who knows how much they had to rewrite possibly to get around what the constraints were, and
I feel like, and by that time it starts getting like an Ed Wood, where Bela Lugosi is just like, let's make this fucker
hold those tentacles, make them look like they're moving.
I'm tempted now to read the Wikipedia summary of the novel. Maybe that's more interesting.
Or you could read the novels too. I mean, like,
he's a busy man.
I guess life's too short.
Yeah.
You're like, I kind of have some Warhammer books to reread. So,
oh, that's nice.
Some Warhammer rules manuals to read.
Yeah.
So you read that, and then you report back to us the even more condensed version of your Wikipedia entry.
Okay. Cool.
I love it.
Okay.
Let us.
What's the next section of this podcast?
Let's do letters. Why not? That's usually what happens.
If you want.
Let's do letters.
Why not? I mean, I thought maybe today was going to be the day when we took an abrupt left turn and just started.
Nope.
I don't know, reviewing pastas, but okay, yeah, we can do letters too. Sure.
That'd be pretty good. Bucatini is a good one. Anyway,
I found nothing silly about Fusilli. It takes its job seriously and it does it well. 4 stars.
Let me tell you something about Cavatelli. It's delicious.
Run, don't walk to get some spaghetti. It's my pasta pick of the day.
No. Wait, I want to go.
Yeah, come on, join in, make Dan mad.
Let's pin a review of this penne.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a little obvious, but I'm here.
Get in your RAV4 and pick up some ravioli down at the local pastaria.
They may be named after little ears, but there's nothing gross about Orchetti.
You'll want to pop this ziti into your mouth.
Oh, you look fettuccine tonight.
Dan, come on, don't fight it. You probably know more pastas than the rest of us put together.
Yeah.
I think you took the good ones. Anyway, this letter is from...
It's a shell of a good pasta. That's for shell pasta. Yeah.
Jackie, last name withheld, writes, "Hiya, fellas. A few years ago, the British charity Comic Relief produced a mini-sequel to the bafflingly enduring and creepy Christmas movie Love Actually. The 15-minute film had no real plot, but was a series of vignettes that updated the viewer on the original characters' current lives. And it weirdly works. Obviously, there's not more story that needs to be told in the sexist, transphobic, fat-shaming, boundaries-ignoring universe of Love Actually. This movie does not need a full-length sequel, but getting to take a tiny glimpse of popular and beloved characters is intriguing. What movie would you like to see a mini-sequel of? One that you are very satisfied with its conclusion, but wouldn't mind having a little check-in with your favorite movie pals. Thank you much, Jackie, last name withheld."
How about this one? Feeling formal? Why don't you dress up your dinner with some bow tie pasta?
How about that one?
I far fell for farfalle.
Okay, sequels, like even a little short check-in sequel to movies we love, movies where we just get to hang out with our friends. Obviously, I'm going to say Suspiria. Just want to see what's going on with that dance studio, man. It's so much fun. I love it.
How did they come back from that? Yeah.
Maybe fast forward a couple of years, see what life's like in Germany then. Who knows?
I love the idea of it's like a meeting of the board of the dance academy, and they bring in the new dance head, and she's like, "I know we have a lot of baggage to get through. We got to bring back the name of this dance studio. But I think we could do it. This academy."
Yeah.
One of my
Dan's types of pasta. Sorry.
So Dan, you were admonishing us to pay it to be good and not do more pasta jokes.
It just seemed really fun.
And now he's googling pastas and he's licking his lips.
Yeah, now I'm just hungry for.
I was just cooking
pasta.
in the background there.
Yeah. Dan's slow evolution into Garfield continues apace as he becomes obsessed with pasta. Yeah, sure.
I just want to see. I would want a full sequel to The Guest, I guess. But it would be fine if it was just kind of like we got to see Dan Stevens walk around a little bit more, and there'd be some cool like synthwave on the soundtrack and some old deep cuts from the '80s.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like something like I wouldn't mind like a little check-in with the characters from Hot Fuzz. Even if it's a short one, because I love those guys. I feel like Edgar Wright is pretty good at like doing stuff like that. I know on the DVD box of Spaced, they did like a very brief like hint at where those characters might be years down the line.
Yeah. Do you have anything, guys?
I recently watched Never Too Young to Die. Little John Stamos, Gene Simmons. With a young John Stamos as a gymnast. I wouldn't mind continuing that track because those two were thrilling on screen, and among I think similar to that, I was always, I mean, it's satisfying to get it wraps up, but I always hated that question mark at the end of Flash Gordon as a kid, because I was like, there's so much more to explore there. I want those characters. I did think that was a totally viable alter universe that I would like to stay in and hang out in and see more about like what happened, like Ming the Merciless and can't remember his daughter's name, but obviously Dale Arden. There's more adventure to be had there, I say.
I'm curious about what happened to the characters in my second favorite movie of all time. That's right, Shadow of a Doubt. You found out your uncle was a murderer. He died on a train while trying to kill you.
Absolutely.
How do you deal with that? How do you, and now there's this cop that is clearly a lunkhead, who is on the case, is in love with you, and you got to figure out how to put him down easily, gently. So I kind of want to know what happens to young Charlie at the, after that movie. But otherwise, I started thinking about Gremlins, and like, I would want to see where Gizmo's at now. Wait, but I would want a whole sequel of that. I don't want a mini sequel. So
it would be interesting. It'd be interesting to see like the gang from Pretty in Pink together now, being like, "Wow, we said awful, awful things back then," and just having a full reckoning of like, should we be canceled? I don't know.
Or like the cast of The Big Chill, and they're all like Trump voters now. Like they've gone over they just reached that point, and they're like, but they still listen to Motown music. They're like, I can't be racist. I listen to this music all the time.
And the baby that Kevin Kline was supposed to impregnate is 40 now.
Yeah, that would be crazy. Well, what about 3 Men and a Baby? Where's that little lady now?
Where's that? Where's the little lady?
Where's or what
Jim
other movies with babies in
we got to make that sequel soon. I mean, all the 3 men are still with us. We got to strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah. Dan, you and I were talking about our Gutenberg love. I'd watch a sequel to The Diner again. See like what those guys are doing. I don't feel like I don't feel like the answer's well.
Dan,
I'd love to see like the characters from Big Trouble in Little China getting another adventure in a different sort of situation.
How about Remo Williams' The Adventure Begins, which never did.
Continue. The adventure continued.
I love Fred Ward with all my heart.
Joel Gray's performance doesn't age super well and was probably super offensive at the time, but
Wait,
everything else. Joel Gray's performance as the martial arts master.
We'll cut that.
That won't be in the sequel.
That.
I don't think so.
Nope, doesn't make it.
Dan, I guarantee you someone is pitching 3 Old Men and a Baby right now, where it's the same 3 men, but they're old now, but they got to take care of like their daughter's baby.
Their granddaughter baby.
You're totally right.
Yeah. And somehow it's going to be in part of the Ghostbusters universe or something. I don't know.
Yes. It's going to be Ghostbusters presents 3 Ancient Men and a Little Lady.
Ghostbusters presents. And the Ghostbusters
have moved into production. That's their job now.
It opens with Ernie Hudson walking out and he goes, the Ghostbusters just loved this story so much that we had to put our weight behind it. And we just want to make sure to bring it to you, a wider audience that might otherwise see it. And so enjoy 3 Ancient Men and a Baby.
We want to make it clear to you, there are no ghosts in this movie. Unlike the original 3 Men and a Baby, which famously had a ghost in one scene, there are no ghosts in this story.
And then you hear Slimer, and he wriggles across the screen really quickly.
I've been hearing earlier reports about the new Ghostbusters movie that a deceased actor shows up as a ghost, and I'm so fucking bummed.
Yeah.
Like, ugh. No, stop it. Just fucking stop it, guys.
Just
Everyone
because you
that
can
shit.
doesn't mean you should.
Which way? Is it Richard Widmark?
Probably. I mean, I didn't want to spoil the movie for me, Elliot.
I was trying to think. It's not going to be Elisha Cook Jr., but maybe Richard Widmark. Yeah, of all the deceased actors. Yeah.
One more letter. This is from Selena, last name withheld, who writes, "I'm a librarian and cataloger by day, and I guess that's about it.
Okay.
While I was on break
at
work,
night, I sleep.
I decided to check in to see if our favorite peaches had entries on Library of Congress. In the industry, if you do, you've made it. Imagine my surprise to see all 3 Flophouse boys with their very own name authorities, and 2 had not just their name, but something you're known for. For Dan, it's McCoy, Dan, parentheses, comic book writer, because out of the entire bunch, you're best known for writing comics. For Elliot,
that seems inaccurate. But
Elliot,
okay. Dan, remind me again how many comics you've written. Was it one?
Well, we wrote a couple for the Flophouse, so 3.
There's no way those were in the Library of Congress, though.
For Elliot, he's Kalen, Elliot, 1981 dash. As we all
good,
know,
I'm still alive. Oh, thank
Elliot
goodness. This was not the way I wanted to find out that I had died.
As we all know, Elliot is best known for being born. But then we reach Wellington
Wait,
Commons.
so it doesn't even say like author or anything like that? It just okay, fair.
Then we reach Wellington, Stewart, who is bereft of a title by which we can differentiate him from all the other Stuart Wellingtons.
So mysterious.
My question for you is, what should Stewart's Library of Congress $C parentheses titles and words associated with a name never stop flopping Selena last name withheld?
I think it should just say #blessed.
Man/myth/legend.
Castle Freak Booster.
True.
Nice.
Can't argue with that.
Yeah.
It should say Stewart is through Wellington, Stewart, parentheses, equally funny, close parentheses.
That's enough for me.
Those are fun.
I'm just happy to be involved. You know,
just happy to be here.
Just happy to be
That's
here.
what it should say.
Just happy to
be here.
That future generations who are just scrolling through the Library of Congress name listings will be like, who was he? What did he do? What a mystery.
That's pretty cool. All right. Well, let's put a cherry on this Flophouse Sunday of Shocktober. I don't know. I started that since before really having a clear idea of where it was headed.
Put the top.
I think that's what he's
back on the.
No, by doing recommendations. By doing that was sorry.
Then let me back up. Let me back up the Stewart truck.
Beep beep beep.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me turn on my robot voice. Does that sound robot-y now?
Yeah, that was pretty
Not
good.
For us, but I'm assuming, yeah, I mean, it sounded pretty robot-y.
National and international audience, I want them to have that.
Yeah.
International audiences love robots. Now we're doing recommendations. That's what I was...
You can't live without them.
That song was about robots?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
I didn't realize that.
You guys got to think.
Open your third eye.
Yeah,
that's true.
I gotta open that third eye.
Flynn.
Recommendations. I'm going to recommend. Usually, this is the part of the show where we recommend good movies to watch. I am going to go the opposite direction and recommend a bad movie, but a bad movie that, unlike
Bizarro, just showed up.
Unlike the
hate movie.
Unlike the Unholy, you will have a good time watching this. Last night, I had a small gathering of folks for a Halloween thing. All vaccinated. We're all doing just fine. And we watched.
I noticed my invitation never arrived. Was it lost in the email?
You live in Los Angeles, which is
I didn't see either of you guys
on the other coast. Sorry that you did not get an invite, but we watched. Stuart was here. We watched Grizzly 2: The Revenge, which. Was very good as a bad movie.
Technically an unfinished...
Interrupt Dan. Tell us what you were going to say.
Technically not a finished movie.
I have so much to say to you about this offline, including my best friend who you're supposed to be best friends with, who wrote a big, long article about it recently that you will love.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah, I'll channel offline. But yes, I totally agree with you. I would throw in, which most horror films or fans probably know about, but I had not seen, which is Dead and Buried, the 1981 kind of amazing film.
I saw that one.
Not imperfect, but not that imperfect, with Melody Anderson, which is, I guess, why I had Flash Gordon on my mind. And most importantly, Grandpa Joe from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory as a mysterious and possibly menacing figure in this town in which people make it dead and buried.
Oh, this is a screenplay by Dan O'Bannon.
Yeah.
That cover I remember. I've never seen it, though.
I put this on my want to see during the Halloween movie season sort of letterboxed list, and I started watching it, but I haven't had a chance to finish it. I've heard only good things about this movie. Dead and Buried.
Oh, that's cool.
It ain't perfect, but very eerie and cool, and definitely very cool. And although with a mystifyingly just awful cop as its lead, just absolutely bumbling, but sexy.
Before we move along entirely, though, I do want to say about Grizzly 2. The beautiful thing about it is it started shooting in '83. Then they finished it last year with a bunch of like stock footage of bears, basically, and it is
and some concert goers.
It is an object lesson in trying to solve, save an unfinished movie with editing and failing totally. Like it is 74 minutes. They just like dragged it over the finish line. It's really funny how silly it is.
And I mean, the star power involved in it, Dan.
Yeah.
We have a scene with Charlie Sheen, George Clooney, Laura Dern, and then later on, Gimli himself, Jonathan Rhys-Davies shows up.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Stu, do you want to?
Hell yeah, I want to go. I'm going to recommend a movie that's not a horror movie. What? I'm going to recommend a movie called Pig, starring Nicolas Cage. It's a movie about a hermit who is a truffle hunter.
Kermit the Frog?
Nope, not a Kermit. It's a hermit, and he's a truffle hunter, and he has a truffle hunting pig, and then some fucking asswipes steal his pig, and he's got to get that shit back. It is easily my favorite John Wick movie. I love it. It's very much a Pacific Northwest movie. It's beautiful. It has a really great performance from Alex Wolff, who you would know as the sad kid from Hereditary, and apparently a sad kid from Old, but I have not seen it yet. And it also has a really great performance from Adam Arkin. It is great. I totally recommend it. Yep, check it out. Pig.
So Stuart, I've seen the previews for it and been quite interested, but I feel like they're almost deliberately marketing it as a haha laugh at this movie, but it
is not like that at
great.
all.
It's
great. Legit great. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. I just want to be clear.
It is not a tongue in cheek. It is.
It's not the like wacka wacka birdemic part 2.
No, it's a great movie. It's fun. It's one of my favorites of the year. Easily.
Right on.
No question.
Do they play the Overkill song "Pig" at any point during it?
Yep. The whole time. It's a really weird choice. Yeah, constantly. You can't hear any dialogue. yeah.
That seems like a big mistake. I'm gonna recommend a movie that I'm surprised you guys hadn't recommended up till now, since it's Shocktober and we're doing horror movies. Then I'm gonna recommend *Malignant*, the James Wan movie from like a month ago or so, I guess.
Yeah.
It is,
and it's also great. That's a great movie.
What? Yeah. It's a movie that, if I was going to explain it best, it would be like, here's a premise that David Cronenberg would have done in like the early 80s or mid 80s, but they're going to do it not tongue in cheek, but kind of like as style out as they can, like kind of as unnatural style as they can in a lot of ways. But then it's going to get it filtered kind of through the kind of action you expect to see in a superhero movie at a certain point. So it's a movie that has a kind of slow burnish open, or slow burnish first hour, where you're kind of like, I see where this movie is going. And plot-wise, I saw where it was going, but I did not expect where it was going to go gore-wise, where it just went, the body count on it by the end was the exact opposite of the Unholy. I was like, there's a lot of people dying in this movie, in this thing. But
there's a scene where the bad guy throws a chair across the screen and it smashes somebody, and it's so fucking funny.
Yeah. And it's a movie that is like, I mean this in the best possible way, is like high gloss trash, like it's not... Right. It is not trying to elevate the horror movie, except in just doing this type of movie at a high level of production, Yeah. But it feels like a very fun kind of mash of modern horror style and that kind of 80s horror style where everything was about medical experiments gone wrong, or like there was always a doctor taking notes on videotape about some strange case that they're dealing with. Like, so it's I really enjoyed it, though. I know a bunch of people talked to me. They're like, I didn't like it. It was too crazy. And I watched it, and I was like, well, this is just the movie that I wanted it to be. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So that's Malignant.
Mm-hmm. I find that less and less you get those movies that are just like, we're going to be a very fun B to B plus movie. That's all we're trying to be. We're going to entertain you. Like, put yourself in our hands. You're in, you're out. And because it feels like it's either these kind of spiritless, by the books or so over the top that there's way too much at stake, and then they ruin it by formulaic. I just like those ones that feel like they just came from someone's head, like where you can feel that person's personality.
Good
and you're
choice
like,
of words for this movie.
Yeah, especially. But yeah, there's the last movie we did on the Flophouse was an adaptation of Turn of the Screw, which felt like it was so bending over backwards to be respectable, that it was never kind of like scary or cool or gross or anything like that. But then there's the movies that are kind of like, have you ever seen someone's face get mashed with a brick into a car while a dog's attacking them? And then somebody makes a joke about it. Like, that's not, I don't want to see that either. Like, I want the characters in the movie at least to be affected by what's going on,
Yes. Yeah. And I feel like it's so, it's so common for horror movies to be either what you just described or like drenched in like sparse strings and like creepy doll houses in the background. And like, it's like, no, it can be a little fun too. Like, like being scared is fun. That's why people are here. They don't want to like be depressed for 2 hours. That's why they watch something else.
And you only get 2 cheap jump scares per movie. That is it.
Anymore, you're done.
Well, it's like, I feel like you could
jail.
After a certain amount of jump scare jail, where they keep jumping at you. Taste your own medicine,
God,
huh?
Sounds awful. There's like a cat in a cabinet, and then around the corner, you trip over something.
Every time you lift up the toilet seat, there's like a lizard jumps out at you.
There's the mirror that you smudge through, and it's like, it goes behind me.
Yeah. You always got to shake out. Got to shake out your shoes every morning. Got to shake out your shoes in case there's like a Venus flytrap or something in it that's going to jump out and snap at you.
Yeah, every time you wake up, you're like, is that a scary guy? Oh, no, that's just a hat rack with a coat on it.
I'm being suffocated. Oh, it's a blanket. Oh, never mind.
But, I'm blind. Wait, my eyes were just closed.
I guess that is the guy in the Sandman comic who gets punished by constantly waking up to nightmares and then waking up from them to new nightmares. That's kind of that.
Wes Craven's New Nightmare?
Yeah. He keeps waking up to the movie Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Yeah. And he's like, why can't I just finish it? I keep waking up after the first half hour. But it's, to see a movie that, I feel like if you can justify a couple of jump scares if you're then paid off with real scares. And this is a movie where it's like, here's some real crazy stuff for you. There's one scene later on that was a little too much for me where a character is in a jail cell and she is surrounded by the most cartoonishly kind of like stereotyped people you would see in a ladies' jail cell. And I was like, you're not trying very hard.
Veteran stunt woman Zoe Bell.
Everybody in the room, everyone on screen does fine. Just the fact that there's like, they're all dressed up like you would see in a cautionary tale about life in the big city in the 70s.
Yeah. But, like a Streets of Rage level.
Or that they're like about to go before Judge Harry on night court or something.
Exactly. There's your horror reboot. You do a horror reboot of Night Court where there's, I don't know, like one of the hookers they bring in is a vampire.
Could you imagine
if
like Bull showed up at that fucking jail cell later? He's like, ladies, it's time to, oh my God.
But if you want a fun horror over the top movie, that's a good one for you. Yeah.
Gillian, was Dead and Buried your official recommendation, or did you have something else?
That was my official.
Well, in that case,
count it. That's 4.
Is
we
there
did 4
anything,
recommendations.
I don't know. Is there anything you'd like our tiny audience compared to your large audience to know? Anything you want to plug?
Just that I'm happy to be here. And yes, I'm working on the next novel. That's what I get whenever I go on Twitter. That's all I get. I can post anything about like Biden has taken over the world and is awesome, and people will be like, "When's your next novel? Get back to work."
I had a good day. It was really good for my mental health. They're like, that's really nice. I hope that helps you write more.
I can't read your good
create
day
more content.
Yeah, let us take some of your heat, because I was we were texting and you were saying that you watched the first half in the background of all of the movies we suggested you could possibly do. And I was like, oh, that's a lot of time to spend on this. And you're like, well, like I'm writing. But let's we can take the heat by saying like we're preventing Gillian Flynn from finishing her next book by having her watch the first half of a bunch of movies.
Luckily it'll be different with next week's guest, George R. R. Martin.
I actually have the same editor as George, so
talk about a cushy job.
Throw it her
Just
way.
sit around, wait all day for books that don't come in. Amazing.
Well, okay.
It has been an absolute delight, you guys, as have me back for the Easter Passover episode.
Sure.
Yes, I mean we should do that.
Arbor Day, whatever you got. I got lots of tree movies to discuss.
Holiday Gillian, we'll call. Before we go, just quick thanks to our editor Alex Smith and producer who makes us sound okay, passable,
like a robot.
Any problems in the recording are our fault and not Alex, who does amazing work. Thank you to Maximum Fun, our network. Go check out MaximumFun.org for other podcasts. But for the Flophouse, I've been Dan McCoy.
I am Stuart Wellington.
I'm Elliot Kalin, and we've been joined by
me, Gillian Flynn.
Thank you so much. Bye.
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 Bye. It's recording.
Okay, and we'll just assume you don't sound like a robot. That'll be...
It's off robot. It's off
okay,
robot.
It's so funny if, as a joke, you did it as a robot without telling us, and we look back and we're like, that's why she kept mentioning robots during the whole thing, saying her batteries were low.
Trying to see if anyone was paying attention.
She was the girl from Small Wonder, all grown up.
But she didn't talk like a robot, really?
She doesn't grow up, Dan. She's a robot. That's the whole thing. She's always going to be a small wonder.
Aww.
He did get you on that one, Dan. He did get you on that one.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned. Audience supported.